don't know what to do with my hands
or my feet.
All right, here we are. Welcome back to the Behind the Blind podcast, brought to you by Tetra Hearing. Find them online at tetrahearing.com. Thank you guys so much for everything that you do with Heartland Waterfowl and sponsoring this podcast. We appreciate you and excited for all the new and cool things that are coming out after the first of the year in 2024. And make sure you follow them on all those social platforms, by the way, and check them out online and see what else is coming out as the show season approaches. Logan Burditt, Alex Diecidue, Troy Ball from Lacrosse. I'm Ronnie Philips. We got him today! Yeah!
2 days in a row that we've got them good.
That was
good.
Did we think that we were going to get him when we left this morning? Because what we left this morning thinking we were going to do is not what we did today.
No, and it's worked out. It worked out for the best.
Yeah. Always have a plan B.
Logan loves that one. If you always have a plan B, and if you have to resort to plan C, then you just go home.
Just go home.
So Alex, set it up. Kind of explain what we did today.
Yeah, so originally it was going to be hunting a small pond for some ducks. And from the road scouting it last night, you could see the ducks going into it, but we've never hunted it before. No one really knew exactly what it looked like down there, so we didn't know, A-frames, layouts, what the setup was going to look like. And when Sean went down there this morning, realized that there was a ton more lily pads, vegetation, things that just were not conducive to us setting up, getting the decoys out, being able to hunt. Were the ducks going to use it? Yeah, probably still, but
basically the open water where they had to land out in the middle would have been like a 50-yard shot.
Yeah, way out there.
And what they were doing is, landing in the middle of that veg and then swimming into the vegetation. So
yeah,
that's a good call.
Yeah.
Really
yeah. Call. So luckily when we went down there and saw that, it said, okay, immediately this just isn't going to work. Right. And luckily we had a backup option, a very good backup option of shooting.
Which wasn't very far away, by the way. That helped.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like what? 10-minute drive maybe?
Yeah. Not far, but it was, I think it was plan A last night.
That actually is true. That is true. Yes.
But we kind of, the rain and everything.
No, we didn't think there was going to be any wind this morning.
Well, yeah, but with the rain and the wind, we just didn't know. So it was like, these ducks look better.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we kind of wanted to shoot some ducks too, but
yeah.
This was big geese primarily, and I think that helped a ton
for sure
as well. We did. It
was like 50-50 little geese to big geese that we shot today.
We worked a couple of good groups of lessers early,
Yeah.
But the fog definitely helped. Yeah. It was the right amount of fog, not too much, not too little. It was like they still snuck up on you.
You could hear them, and then you would turn around and they'd be like 100 yards. You could see 150 yards maybe.
Enough so they could still see you in the flag. That was key today.
Yeah.
And I bring back to the podcast Troy Ball, who is competing to be the 2024 World's Champion Flagger. Yeah. I'm going to call him my protege. Yes, my young protege. I appreciate how well you performed today with the flag.
Actually, even more than his flagging abilities. I feel like we're jumping forward here.
You shared a blind
we probably
with
are.
You shared a blind with him.
Yeah, right. We're sitting right next to each other.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Things happen in the blind. Drink coffee. You've had a late night. He had to. he had to go to the bathroom, right? So he's sitting there, and I can see him contemplating it because it's been.
Can I just say it's not like he had to get out of the blind to take a leak.
No,
he had to take a poop.
Yeah, he had to poop. And you guys know,
if you're watching this and you care about what you've all been there, all right? So don't judge.
We were talking about how you're not supposed to make a vulnerable man even more vulnerable.
It plays into the story only because we hadn't seen birds fly for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, they didn't fly early.
No.
Yeah.
And so he's sitting there and he literally is like, I don't know what to do. Like, I really need to go. And I literally looked at him and said, I don't think these birds are going to fly for at least another half an hour, if not an hour.
When you're debating, the second you leave, it's going to happen. Every waterfowl
and it happens every time.
The second you go to do anything outside of the blind is when it happens.
Right.
And so I had waited an hour and a half, and I was like, all right, I got to go. Yeah.
And you get no more than 150 yards
you got time.
away.
They're not going to fly for another half hour or so.
I literally looked at him and I said, hey, worst case scenario, you'll get to the trees, and then you'll have one flock, and you'll be back.
Yeah.
Right.
As soon as he got out of the blind,
Flock after flock after flock. We're like, get down, get up, no, get down, come back, no, sit down,
go.
Yeah. So I spent the first 2 volleys like
running back and forth while you still had to poop.
True.
Accurate. Affirmative.
he gets back in the blind and looking at him. It's like, I completely lied to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I was 2 for 2 on that because I finally got back to the blind, got in on action on the 3rd volley, then there was a break.
Right.
And then I was like, all right, I'm going to run and go. And
it
I made
happened
it.
again.
I made it to the woods. And then afterwards, I got caught halfway back to the blind again on the 4th volley. And had to lay back in the grass for the next one.
Pure comedy. Like it couldn't have happened any better.
How was the view from down there in the bottom of the waterway, watching us kill all those geese?
It's awesome. It's so it's actually kind of cool. Something I really like about it's kind of nostalgic as a kid, like when you get bored and you're cold or something like that as a little kid, and your dad's like, hey, go scare those birds up or go for a walk, you know what I mean, or something like that. I always remember being a kid and like I always thought it was so cool to watch birds fall and then hear the gunshots like a couple seconds later. Yep. And so that was the whole thing is I'm like, oh, right now, and then all of a sudden you would just see a whole 6-pack go down, and then that's so cool.
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes I actually like fake like I gotta go poop just so I can see the vantage point.
Yeah.
There's no faking with you. It's all it's
For certain. For certain.
But it worked out. That field, the way that field laid out was really good because it rained all night long. Not a ton of rain, but enough that it was
probably
muddy,
a quarter to a half inch, I'd say.
And there was a waterway that led perfectly where we needed to be, so we could drive the buggies right in.
Yep.
Set up the panel blinds, and it was like short. Right, it wasn't like a really nasty, thick waterway. We cut a lot of extra brush and things like that.
Yeah, normal scenario, I think we would have probably ran layouts, but since that grass was so wet, it was just with the camera guys behind, and it was so short, like the layouts almost would stick out more.
Worse.
And like 50 yards down, there was one. Right on the edge, there was one like 10-yard long, like tall bush. And I think that saved us. And then also sitting right in front of that water. I think it looked, my brother said that on the way back. He goes, I think it kind of looked a little more natural that the brush was right around the low spot where the water was, you know?
Yep. So that made a huge difference.
And they wanted right into that water. So, you know, we had 2 or 3 groups key right on that water.
Yeah.
You know, eventually they'd peel off to the right a little bit or whatever, but they were keying right on that.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the birds we shot today were within 20. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, what did we run? 6 dozen?
6 dozen decoys.
We just, you know, we're thinking we're going to shoot big geese, and it was loose and comfortable because
the spread was a lot bigger profile than a
Yes.
6 dozen.
I meant to compliment somebody this morning, and I didn't do it. I'll do it now. Whoever put together that spread,
I think that was Sean.
that was put together.
He did
perfect.
a very, very good job.
That was a very good job of decoy placement today.
Yeah.
Yep. It's loose, it's comfortable, and it looked like there's a little bit of a terrace, probably at, I don't know, 60 or 70 yards. And so those birds, you know, were wanting to land when they watched them yesterday while they were scouting. We're landing kind of just off that terrace and then working their way down, walking their way down through that winter wheat down to that low spot. And so we just set the spread up to where, you know, we had some in that water in front of us, a couple that were loose, and then a good, it was a blocker to keep them from going too far left, but it was very loose and comfortable. So with the fog, we knew they wanted to be there. And then with the spread, I think those birds just said, oh, well, there they are. They're super comfy hanging out. Let's go stand in a field all day long.
The other thing is winter wheat, your decoys stick out. I mean, they pop, especially in that fog. You know, if you're in a cornfield in the fog, a lot different story.
Right.
And then the flag, once again, there was a couple of times those
They
birds
spun
went
back behind us.
and they're wanting to land in the beans.
Yep.
And we got on the calls real hard. Troy hitting the flag, showing Ronnie up. You know, he's doing a good job.
Well, I taught him everything he knows.
Right.
It's true.
Yep. But anyways, he just, you know, they flipped right around. I mean, you could tell that they were keying on that for sure. And it wasn't a second guess. They keyed right around and you knew exactly what was going to happen. You saw it 3 or 4 times, exactly the same. Go on the beans, they flipped right around, and then they came right around the right edge of the blind and came right in.
Yep.
There
And
was
we
no circling, none of that. It was just boom.
We had some nasty volleys too. Like, I mean, I think we had 4 or 5 total. There's a couple times we would shoot, you know, 3 to 5, but there was 2 or 3 that one especially the finale, the grand finale.
Well, there was one more after that, but that was definitely the best volley where we rained out at least 15 roughly.
12, 15, 16 geese. It was awesome.
It was incredible.
Awesome.
A real beaut, as producer Q says from behind the cameras. This is something that I don't want to make a big deal of, but I think it happens in conversation as waterfowl hunters, so I'm going to bring it up. An effort to maybe be informative or educational. In this waterway, the grass wasn't really that tall, and we did use the panel blinds on the edge of that transition between the waterway and the wheat field. And I think some people, well, let me back up. Majority of those birds were coming from behind us. Mm-hmm. And we've done it so many times that we don't like it necessarily, but it's not going to absolutely deter us from using a panel blind or an A-frame type of blind if the birds are coming from behind us. But in this particular case, because the grass wasn't that tall, we still went with them for the reasons that Logan just spoke of. Those birds did not care coming from behind us but I think in some situations, some people would say, don't run that style of the blind. If they're coming from behind us, they're going to get over top of us. They're going to see us and then they're not going to finish. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a conversation that happens frequently.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing too, with those tangle-free wind frames,
we adjusted them different.
We adjusted them way down. Everyone got in there and they're like, oh, they're so tight. Well, we had them adjusted way, way down so that gap was tiny, and we had grass, tall enough to get over top. So it wasn't like they're coming over top and staring into a dark hole. And then also, we dipped the whole things in the big puddle this morning.
Laid them in
because
water.
All of our grass was dry, so we took the flat parts, and you were gone getting your boots at the time, but we took those panels and literally just dunked them in the water, and then they matched all the vegetation around. So I think that,
and I think that is really key. As silly really as it may seem, and if you're listening to this or watching this, it does.
Get your blinds
It really
wet.
does. But think about the situation. Like if you are hunting in wet conditions or there's mist or fog, whatever it might be, and you have a blind, be it ground blind or a panel blind, like if you have dry grass, it is not going to match your natural habitat, right?
Yep.
And so that was a really good thought, is like we should make sure that the grass on this blind looks wet so that it matches the natural habitat.
Yep. Yeah. So getting it wet, plenty of overhead cover. We cut a lot of long grass the other day, so we have plenty of overhead cover to block. And then we pulled a ton of, nasty shrubs and things like that on the way in that waterway. And so, like I said, it may be short, but there were patches in that waterway that looked just like our blinds anyways.
Absolutely.
And those geese didn't, a second thought. Not a second thought.
One of the things that I also really liked about today's hide was somebody went and cut some, I don't know I'll call it like a buck brush because it kind of resembles a buck brush. But what people would typically do is they will take that and then just lean it up right up against our blind. And we did that somewhat, but we also took some of those, and because the ground was wet, we could stick them in the mud that looked like natural trees that were poked around.
It just kind of gives it a different profile.
Yeah,
breaks it
absolutely.
up.
Yeah, completely breaks it up.
And they could be 5 feet, 10 feet, just in all different areas within that area that made it look more natural.
Yep.
Troy, I'll go to you. What were some of the takeaways that you had from today's hunt?
Oh man, put me on the spot.
Don't go poop.
First thing that comes to
don't
mind.
go poop.
or go poop. Because it got it going.
Yeah.
I always have to go before, like when I park the truck, if I don't go.
That's why he parks the truck.
Yeah.
He's got his alone time.
Take care of it.
That makes sense.
I'm the bumper dumper.
Isn't it super interesting how comfortable guys are when they have their pickup? Like I get so uncomfortable when I don't have my truck.
Yep. You have all your stuff where you know it's at.
I run like a deck system and stuff in mine, and like I just know stuff's in my pickup, and I'm like always ready to go. And when I don't, I get in someone else's pickup, I'm like almost anxious. I'm like, I don't know if I have all my stuff.
What was the question that you asked him when he was on his way to take a dump? Are you like...
Is that the name of this podcast or what?
No, seriously, because I thought it was funny. You in the way, like if you're going to go take a crap in the field.
Oh, are you a squatter or are you a hanger?
A hanger, yes.
I'm a hanger.
Yes.
You are?
Oh,
yes.
for sure. I hang off
grab
the corner.
something and hang.
I hang off the corner of my pickup almost every morning.
I invested in that cattle guard on the front of my Ford F-350 just so Logan had something to hold on to when he takes a crap.
No.
Yes, for sure.
I'm from the Oregon coast. You're always looking for a good down log, and I'm a squatter.
I can't do. I always have the fear that I'm gonna shit on my pants.
Well, and I was thinking about that when he walked off to do that. And you asked him the
whole podcast is gonna be about Troy pooping.
The first thing I can think of is that he's wearing bibs and he's gonna crap in his bibs. He's gonna.
Sorry,
I can't wait.
Sorry to go on the rant, but he had the new First Light bibs on, and I literally asked him how those bibs were, and I was like, "Hey, man, don't shit in your bibs." It's a joke,
and they're my brand new ones.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll really try not to."
He probably didn't even get it because part of the reason that I said that was yesterday we were driving around scouting, and Alex is telling a story of a time when his nephew shit in his bibs.
Or his waders.
The whole reason I said that this morning.
I heard that story today. That's pretty brutal.
The whole reason I said that this morning is because he's wearing the brand new bibs. Like, hey, how are those bibs? You know, and then he had,
Yeah, I mean, if we want to change to somebody else, go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
hey, back to your
on the plus side,
Eric Champlin from the gallery.
they didn't video you doing it like they did to me and then put it on the episode.
Oh yeah, Canada.
You guys did that?
Yeah. In Canada, yeah. It made the blooper reel.
I turned on my reverse camera, and he's on the side of the highway in between the truck and the trailer, like way off on the side of the road, and the wind's like swirling in the trailer.
Big time.
Every time he's wiping, and I have my reverse camera on, and he's filming. Every time he's wiping, it's
filming
like
the display
around,
on the
it's like
dash.
swirling around his head, and he's trying to.
It's like a tornado.
I like went to take a pee behind the truck today, and Q was flying the drone around, and I could just hear it getting closer to me, and I was like,
"Hey, it can't get that close, dude. It can't get that close."
I can't wait to get back to work, and then they're like, "Hey, how'd the podcast go? What'd you guys talk about?" And I'll be like, "Well,
Go listen.
I guess."
But this is the thing that happens with everybody.
That's why I'm bringing it up and have no reservations talking about it, because
everybody.
Surely anybody who's listening or watching this can relate to that.
In fact, they should comment with their favorite poop story from being in the field, because I want to know about it.
And it could possibly get you entered to win some boots from Lacrosse with a pair of waders.
What a segue.
Yeah. Best poop story wins.
I got one.
Okay.
Champlin's buddy.
Oh boy.
Holding on to a corn stalk, thinking that's a good idea to hang off of. You know how I say I'm a hanger? I don't hang from a corn stalk. I not know from personal experience, but I've heard stories about Champlin's buddy that tried hanging from a corn stalk, fell right in it.
That seems
Yeah.
Very likely, actually.
Yeah,
It could have
exactly.
been worse. He could have been trying to hang.
We
from
never
the corn
said the
stalk
guy was smart.
Broke the corn stalk, fell,
and got penetrated by a corn stalk.
That could have been real bad.
Whoa, why are you thinking about that?
No, I'm just
We're
saying.
just talking about poop here.
It's a
Come on.
scary thought.
Could have
It's a
happened.
scary thought.
It's a scary thought. That's why you don't hang on to a corn stalk.
It's escalated quickly.
Yes. All right, so back to the geese.
Yeah. So your aside from the pooping part, what's some of your takeaways from today's hunt?
I just like the comfort, like we were talking about the comfort of the decoy spread. And if it was Sean, we were working on the blind, so I didn't see, but if it was Sean, the one thing I noticed, and
By the way, Sean, who is a guide here at Tornado Alley.
Correct. What I noticed was, and we were talking about it earlier a little bit, so it's more piggybacking off of it, but the big takeaway that I got today was like, there was almost like the X had two spots. It was almost like there was two X's and they were both in killable zones for us, like both right in our face. But it was the way the spread was set up. It almost made them so comfortable to get low quickly. Yeah. Because of the fog. But then when they got there, they saw that spread and there was two options that were great for us. But also I felt like that gave the birds a lot of confidence that they had. I feel like sometimes you try to force an X a little bit. You know, you get this big hook or something like that. And it's like, we need the birds to finish here. And then they finish too far to the left or the right because they're not quite comfortable landing there. And especially those little birds that just fly around and around and around. I felt like we actually had the little birds finish the best really this week so far. Yeah. Yep. And it wasn't like there was an incredible amount of wind or anything. I just felt like the spread was super comfortable for them. And they had options and those options were all really good for us too. So that was my big takeaway.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, Sean, who did a great job with the decoy placement. We should just let him do that every time apparently, because that was really good. Well, we talked about the giveaway, so let's hit on that one more time. The Alpha Burley Pro insulated and uninsulated, the Alpha Agility waders. We're giving that away from Lacrosse. Thank you, Troy, and all the fine folks over at Lacrosse Footwear for contributing that to the giveaway. Subscribe to the Heartland Waterfowl YouTube channel. Comment on all of these videos. Like all of these videos, whether it's the Behind the Blind podcast or the hunt recaps. That's going to get you entered to win. We'll announce the winner, I guess, in the next podcast tomorrow as we get towards the end of this trip. As we were out scouting tonight, I was actually thinking about that. I said, man, we're almost at the end of this already. Like, as excited as I am to go home and celebrate Christmas with the family, I'm really bummed out because I've been having a great time out here with you guys in Tornado Alley.
Been a good one.
Yeah. So the plan for tomorrow, crossing our fingers, because the theme of this trip has also been, we think we know what we're going to hunt.
Yeah.
And then at 7:30, 8 o'clock, well, we're going to change, or maybe even the next morning, we're going to change that decision. But right now, it's a big piece of water, and it's ducks. That's the plan. That's surrounded by some smartweed, and a bunch of ducks are using it.
Yeah.
That's what Brandon said here right before we started the podcast. Might change.
They could.
But we're ready for a mallard
we went and looked at it. It's a big pond, but they're in the very north end. That waters came up, with the rain and whatnot enough, and they're in the smartweed, and you just really can't tell how many are in there. And we were looking at them at a bad time to look at them, but they've been in there off and on for the last 2 days. We've seen them, but it seems like it's gotten more and more, or maybe they're just coming out of the smartweed when we drive by and we can see them a little better, but there's enough to have a good shoot. And that's really all that matters. So
this particular piece of water is not new to us. We've hunted this water, and we've had some amazing shoots, and we've also had our rear handed to us on this particular piece of water.
I'm just thankful we're not hunting on the big water, right? We're going to be on that north end, and it gets real skinny, and if we had to go on the very south side with the big water, it makes me so nervous. They just want to land out in the middle, and it's just it's really, really hard to hunt that big of a piece of water unless it's super, super windy. But now that them birds are wanting there's not a bird, 100 yards south. There's not a bird south of there. They're all tucked up on the far north end. So you can, that's where they want to be. And you can make that pond hunt a lot smaller.
For sure. Where I was going with the fact that we've hunted this particular piece of water for so many times, one of the things that I take away from it is, as we were scouting it tonight, there didn't appear to be a ton of ducks on it. Now, we don't know how many ducks are in the smartweed, right? We know that there's more ducks in there than what we could visually see. But we also know from years past is that there's a lot of different places that those birds are coming from, that just because what we scout and what we see isn't necessarily reality. Right. Like, there's the opportunity that birds are going to be bouncing from water to water, or coming from a lot of different directions. So there's the opportunity for more birds than we saw in our scout.
Yeah, we have no clue what's going on from 7 to 9 o'clock over there. Maybe a couple guys drove by or whatever the case may be, but no one sat there and was seeing what was actually coming into it. I mean, just when we were sitting and we first pulled up, I saw a group of like 10 go right by those trees, and then I didn't see another bird fly into it when we were there sitting there the whole time. So should be good.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know. I honestly haven't. I know there's a south wind. It's not great. Hopefully there's just enough to where that gives them enough direction to pull them in. But do we have an idea of what we're thinking the conditions are going to be tomorrow? A slight chance for rain, possibly?
No, I don't think there's any more rain. It's still warm. I think it'll probably be 50 again in the morning. So hopefully if we can have the wind that we had this morning,
and
perfect.
That's the reason those ducks are in there. It's 50, 55 degrees, 60 degrees today.
Hanging out in the smartweed.
They don't need to go dry feed if they don't have to. They're not having to go hit the cornfield down the road.
Right.
We haven't seen ducks in dry feed for the last 4 days.
Yeah. Hopefully that changes next week.
Yeah,
looks like a cold front's coming on Monday or Christmas or day after Christmas. So should start getting better.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as we get ready to wrap this up, I guess I'll go to Troy, because Troy's got to get a flight tomorrow, and because we don't know how tomorrow's hunt's going to go and when we're going to be done, and he's going to have to leave at a specific time to make it back to Kansas City to take a flight. I'll just ask you this. What's some of the takeaways that you've gotten from your time? I mean, you've done a lot of waterfowl hunting, and mostly in the upper Northwest. Is that fair to say that most of your waterfowl hunting has been up there? So this has been a new experience in a new part of the country, and you've done it on a level as a producer, much like we do it. What are some of the things that you've seen about this trip that you, I don't know, that has been new or interesting, or any of that?
Honestly, it's a lot of it is super similar as far as like the terrain, the ecosystem, if you will. Like a lot of it looks a lot the same. We have the same type of birds, same type of weather, same type of everything back home. I think the biggest difference is just we get a lot, like the Pacific Flyway is kind of notorious for having a lot of local birds in it too. We get mild winters and mild summers. And so I think we get kind of that big ratio of migratory birds that you're working, and they decoy better in this and that. And then you also have a lot of local birds. So for us, like calling is the number one thing. We'll hunt over smaller spreads, especially the back half of the season. You can kill a limit of birds over half a dozen decoys if you can call really, really well. So calling is just like what everyone aims to be.
Is that typically like a traffic situation where you're just, that you're in a good flight line?
The birds they just get educated. You can't tell if they're local birds or not in the air, but you can tell when they won't finish and this and that. So sometimes it's just, they'll spread out thinner and thinner and thinner, like all over the Northwest. They'll spread out thinner and thinner in those alfalfa fields, like throughout the season, and they'll start getting super gun shy to all sorts of stuff. So you got to change up, panel blinds, layout blinds. Sometimes you even like do the big throwback and lay under the big half shells. You know what I mean? And like with the
magnums.
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever you can kind of do to mix it up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I used to lay under those before I could even pull a trigger just to go out with my dad.
So is Logan. And my dad make me get underneath them and crawl under them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Make it look like
you're like
around.
Motion decoy.
Logan was the original motion decoy.
Yeah, I think that's just the big thing out here. Like, it definitely seems like everyone in the group's a really good caller, but it's like you guys haven't talked about calling at all. And that's like the one thing I feel like everyone back home talks about calling a lot. And here it's like all about the spread. And it was very much more about that.
Ours is be where you want to be and hide yourself.
Be where they want to be.
Be where they want to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Scout, find where the birds want to be, and then hide yourself.
And am I wrong, or like these are 95+% migratory birds, right? They're not local birds.
No.
I should have asked.
Correct.
By now.
Yeah, yes, there are some local birds in this area where we hunt back home. There's a lot of local birds, but it's not. For instance, my lake has maybe 250 on it in the summer, right?
Yeah.
It's not like big numbers like you might see in the city or something like that, It's
minute enough to where you're not really considering
I know exactly. I know exactly what you're referring to. In college, there was a local, population of birds, and those birds always act 1,000 times different than, if you went and hunted those birds, they acted 1,000 times different than the birds would, 2 miles away coming off a different roost, right?
Yeah.
If they were coming out of town, out of the city, those birds always acted funky, and it's just, I don't know, a stigma or whatever the case may be. It's just weird. I know exactly what you're saying with that. And, but no, we don't really have that around here, but yes, all of them are migratory. And, you just kind of saw it weird. We kind of had maybe a reverse migration or birds just moving around to different places.
Yeah, yesterday seemed like a migration day of some sort.
Kind of the weather, I think.
Ducks,
so many birds in there.
Late morning when we were goose hunting, and then like the ducks on one of the refuges just kind of like out of nowhere, there was nothing, and then all of a sudden they're all there, and it's like, where did you guys come from? We had 55-degree weather, south wind. So I don't know if it was a reverse or birds just changing, where they're at, but yeah, it's just kind of goofy year right now.
It's a hard year, and anyone watching this will agree. It's just a tough year, right? It's been warm all across the United States. People are struggling across the United States. So it's just, you got to put in a little extra effort and a little extra miles, and it's just tough. But that's part of it.
I'll say if this is a tough year out here, I can't wait to come back.
I was just
been a really good week.
Can you imagine the bitching we'd be doing right now with this weather if we were having terrible hunts,
Oh, yeah.
And the rain played a big factor in today, in my opinion. Having a winter wheat field when it's wet, all those birds when it was warm flip to the winter wheat, and you knew
they want to go and they want to sit,
and that is a huge deal. If you can get on a winter wheat field with birds in it, with the conditions
or alfalfa, a green field,
it's one of those. I wouldn't say it's like as crazy, as a survival mode, with a big. Snowstorm coming in, but it just gives those geese just another little trigger to make it a little bit easier to decoy them. Yeah. You saw that. I mean, you were laying out in the middle of the waterway, no problem.
Yeah.
Yesterday, we were they were spinning on top of us, waiting for us to get out of the field with our dead birds. To get back in the blinds, because to get back
they wouldn't be in there.
It was just those little tiny condition changes that has helped with the warm weather that I think has really helped us have a better shoot than what we could have had.
Yeah. Yep. They're habitual. People try a little too hard sometimes. It's like like you said, be where they want to be.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I'll ask one last question. I'm going to put you on the spot again. So in the case that we don't get to talk to you on the podcast tomorrow, excuse me, as we wrap up this trip with Tornado Alley in Kansas, what are some of the highlights or some of the most memorable moments that you have had with Heartland Waterfowl for the first time as you're new to lacrosse, be it hunting or in camp or both? What are some of the big takeaways? And you can be very raw and authentic. It doesn't matter. We're not regulated by the FCC here, so have fun with it.
We're on the poop level here. So.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's just it. It's easy. It's just the overall camaraderie. Like this is my first time meeting any of you guys in person. Obviously, we talk all the time, being partners and all that. But it's this first time meeting anyone. But like hunting brings people together. Oh yeah. And it's so cool that I can fly all the way across the country, come hunt with you guys, and we have this common thing where it's like I can just jump in and like. I know how the panel blind works, and I know how to grass. I'm like, how can I help? Give me a task, and then just that, and then spending the nights and having a couple drinks and everything together, and just getting to know each other. It's like we can, like I said, haven't met anybody, and we leave here and we're all brothers. We all know each other really well.
That's the coolest part about what we do.
Brotherhood, man.
Right there is the coolest part. We get to go all over the country, meet a lot of new people, and those are people that I will know the rest of my life.
Absolutely,
and hopefully hunt with the rest of my life.
We've made some amazing connections and friendships all across the world. Dang near
you'll notice. I always think this is so funny, but it's like your text messages with somebody you haven't actually met and like gone on a hunt, shared camp. I call it. Someone you haven't shared camp with, you text like very professional and this and that, and then as soon as you share camp with somebody for the rest of your life, those text messages are incredibly different.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be my most memorable moment from this particular trip. Granted, we've got another hunt tomorrow, so we've got another opportunity to make some memories. But I will never forget that particular moment with you when you're trying to pull up on that bird and you're apologizing to Alex as you're swinging, but before you pulled the trigger, and then lo and behold, they come back with a banded bird from South Dakota. So really, really cool, man. So if we don't get a chance to bring you back on the podcast tomorrow, thank you so much, not only for being here. I know that's a sacrifice because you're married, you've got a kid. So right there on the heels of the holidays to come out here and do this, naturally you're ate up with hunting, right? So it's something you look forward to do, but it's still a sacrifice. And, like you were working on an expense report, like you're still working for lacrosse when you're at camp and not hunting. And there's a lot of, sacrifice that's involved with doing that. And so I appreciate you coming out and doing that. What a cool opportunity. And outside of that, thank you to you and everybody at Lacrosse for what you guys do for us, because as we talked about in one of the other podcasts, is the footwear is so important to what we do. And if we're not comfortable with what we do with our feet, obviously, then that's going to be a miserable experience in the field.
I would have been so muddy today. So muddy.
Hey, shout out to you for wearing hip waders. Like it's a lost art.
I had to.
We love wearing those hip waders.
I wear them. Spring Canada, I wear them every day.
Yeah, I walk over to Logan and I'm like kind of pulling on him and messing on him and checking him out. And he just kind of stops for a second and looks at me. He's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "I'm just checking him out, man."
You don't see it that often anymore.
You
don't see it that often anymore.
So then I'm instantly like thinking of the applications and I'm like, it's cool.
How long have we had the lacrosse sponsorship?
Oh, since like season 4, I want to say season 4 or 5.
Okay, yeah. 7 years.
Yeah,
I've had those since week 1 of that sponsorship.
They've been awesome
since
that pair.
They really came in.
I've literally had those since. Literally, that was like one of the first items I ever got from lacrosse.
And just how many days a year do you hunt waterfowl?
A lot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's hard.
There's
to
never too many. Never too many.
More than the average. Yeah. More than the average person.
Yeah. I mean,
for sure.
It's, it's one of those things that today was a situation to wear them. Perfect situation. Spring Canada, perfect situation to wear them. Any sheet water, mud, they're great. Like my hands are so muddy, I'm just wiping them on that instead of wiping them on my pants. It just makes everything better. But yeah, I've had those for 7 or 8 years now. No problems.
Yeah. Perfect, man. Shameless plug, but no, I really appreciate you guys inviting me out. I've had an absolute
been
blast.
awesome.
I can't wait. One more day. I'm like already anxious and excited to go out tomorrow. It's just been awesome. So
Well, let's do it again, man.
yeah.
And
Whole
maybe-
new look
maybe-
tomorrow, ducks.
Yeah.
Until Brandon changes his mind.
yeah, right. And if you got a spot in Oregon, we might want to consider coming up there and getting on your.
I know some people. I know some places.
Okay. We wouldn't be mad about that. And thanks again for the contribution for the giveaway. Again, make sure you comment on this video. You like all the videos and you subscribe to the Heartland Waterfowl YouTube channel and tell all your hunting buddies about it as well, because again, we're bringing you this content in semi-live time. We really take a lot of pride in that, is making sure that we're bringing you a really cool polished production as it's happening while we're on the road. So make sure you do all those things. We'll give away that package on the next podcast. And do you have anything else, Q?
What it is.
Yeah, again, the Alpha Burley Pro insulated and uninsulated boots in the Typha First Light Camo and the Alpha Agility waders. Got it? Cool. So we'll wrap that up. Logan Burditt, Alex Diecidue, Troy Ball from Lacrosse Footwear. I'm Ronnie Philips. Check back tomorrow for our final Behind the Blind podcast as we wrap it up here at Tornado Alley in Kansas.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you, Tetra Hearing,
Absolutely.
for being the title sponsor
It's
of
been
the
a damn
Behind the
good
Blind
week.
podcast. Check them out online at tetrahearing.com.
One more day.
I'm just fine down here in Heavenville.